So this is that Marshall Randy Rhoads from a few weeks back, and the owner got it, and he loved it. I mean, really loved it. Loved it so much that the actual review contained the forbidden gerund. I'll let you figure that one out. But he used it for several weeks, played it loud, played it proud, and one night it stopped making the sound. So let's open it up and see what might have gone wrong with this thing. Let's start with the fuses. The mains fuse is intact. The HT fuse blue, that's often a power tube or something related to that section of power tubes. So let me put a new 1 amp fuse in there and see what we find once we open it up. None of the tubes have lost vacuum. There's no discoloration or anything that leads me to think there's a calamity that's tube related. I took the covers off. Sometimes a preamp tube loses vacuum and that can throw things off. You know, sometimes HT fuses just blow. I don't recall if I had changed that when the amp was here before. I might have just confirmed that it was correct. They are glorified light bulbs, but on an amp this expensive, I don't want to take that chance. I'm not going to just feed it more fuses. I'm going to take this out and continue the inspection. Everything visibly looks okay. The screens and grid stoppers measure okay. I'm going to power it on in standby with my current limiter engaged and watch what happens. Everything inside the amp looks just fine, just as it was. These heater resistors have not failed, though that is a common point of failure if there's any kind of heater to plate short. The screen grids, the grid stoppers, they measure fine. Everything looks fine. Everything smells fine. I'm going to power it on in standby using my current limiter and keep an eye on what happens. And before I take it out of standby, I'm going to confirm that I've got negative voltage at the grid of each output tube, which is a little bit tricky to do on this model because they have shrink wrap that kind of covers the pin. Well, that heat shrink makes it pretty much impossible to measure at the grid itself, but I've measured the feed to the grids, and I'd previously measured those resistors. It's unlikely that one of those failed, but leaving the current limiter on, I'm going to take it out of standby and see if we have any surges of current. Just a very dim glow, which is normal for a 100-watt Marshall. All right, let's plug a guitar in and see what kind of sound we have. Remember, this amp has no master volume, so it can be very, very loud. All right, I suspect that we just had an old HT fuse, but that's not enough for me to send it back yet. So I'm gonna give this some extended play time and let the amp get really hot, etc., and tap and tug on things. But I think this was just one of those things, probably a 20-year-old fuse or however fuses go. But there could be something happening in the amp after it's been on for a long, long time that just caused a spike, and I need to make sure. So let me put this to the side for now. I'll call the owner and then do some more testing tonight, but I've got another amp to get on the bench right now.